Luna, I swear, if you knock my books over, we're not having a good day. Can't go outside yet. She's wanting to go outside. It's not time for you to go outside yet. Hey everyone, it's Kelly. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my November wrap-up. I'm not in front of my tree because my kids are in the living room playing video games, and today is very stressful. So, I'm going to try to make this my shortest wrap-up ever. I usually run off at the mouth, but this time I'm not going to do that because my stomach's hurting because something in my personal life at the moment is going on. Can't talk about it because it'll jinx it, and yeah. So anyways, the first book I read for November, I started it in October on Halloween, and that is Eleanor, Alice, and the Roosevelt Ghost. It is a middle grade paranormal story. I got an opportunity to read this book a couple of years ago for a blog tour, and I never got around to it. So I ended up picking a copy up from my library and reading it, and it is about Eleanor Roosevelt, Alice Roosevelt, Teddy, Theodore, Franklin, and it is about ghosts. So we're following Eleanor and Alice, and they live in two separate houses. They're cousins, and Alice has just moved in with her aunt because she has not been acting ladylike, and Eleanor is living with a old grandmother who is like high and proper and likes to gossip and thinks she's better than everyone else. So one day after Alice moves in with her aunt and uncle, their ghost lamp comes to life, and then they have to notify the city to get them to inspect and see if it's a friendly ghost or a bad ghost, and if they need to vacate the premises and find somewhere else to live, or if they can keep living in the house with the friendly ghost. I knew about Eleanor Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, and Franklin, Alice, them being cousins, but for some reason them having relations in the book was a little weird to me. They were cousins, like fifth cousins twice removed. I don't understand that one freaking bit, but your family. It was a little weird. So, yes, I ended up giving this a 3 to 5. Do I recommend it? Yes, for the paranormal aspect, but from a historical point, if you got a kid and that they don't know that cousins used to marry each other, then talk to them about it and then introduce the book. I read out loud to my kids. If you are new and you don't know that I homeschool my kids, well, now you know that I read out loud to them. And I read out loud maybe a book or two a month. I'm trying to get to 2 to 3 books a month. It depends. But I read Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones out loud to my kids. And before I read this, we have watched a movie, Studio Ghibli, and right away, after the first couple of chapters, my kids go, movie's better. And I agree. So this goes more into Sophie's family life. It mentions that she's got 2 sisters, and they apprentice at a bakery and a tailor, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And Sophie, she's firstborn. She's the unfortunate child. And when I read that part, I looked at my oldest, Samantha, and because she's my firstborn, she'll be 13 in April. I'm about to be 31 in 19 days, and I have a freaking 13-year-old. What the hell? Anyways, but yeah, she had a moment with that line in the book. And so this is about a girl named Sophie, and in this town that she lives in, everyone knows about the wizard Howl and how he steals girls' hearts. And she one day she makes a hat for a witch, and the hat is like not up to the witch's standards, and so the witch turns Sophie into an old hobbling woman. And so Sophie decides to leave, and she basically runs away, and she goes to find Howl, and she ends up finding his castle. And so she goes into the castle, meets his apprentice Michael, and she meets the fire demon Calcifer. Calcifer is my favorite thing in the whole entire movie. And Calcifer in the book was way scarier. Also, Turnip Head, the scarecrow, he was like more monstrous in the book. He was made to be feared, whereas actually he's a freaking lovable character in the movie. And so he keeps trying to get at Sophie into the house, and he's like a spy maybe. And so we meet Hal, and how Sophie is like bullying Calcifer, and it's just I love the interaction between Sophie and Calcifer. Howl being like all broody and sulky over the one of her sisters. It's just, it was awesome. This a 3 out of 5. The constant referencing, or the constant mentioning of Sophie hobbling everywhere, like 3 to 4 times a page. Sophie hobbled, Sophie hobbles, Sophie hobbling. She was a persistent hobbler, let me tell you that. It was aggravating as fuck. I used to love the word hobble because of the mysterious Benedict Society. Constance wanted to hobble Mr. Curtin, and I fucking love that word until I read this, and then that word just got old so damn quick. And so, yeah, we didn't need to be constantly reminded that Sophie was old and she hobbled. Am I going to pick up the other books in this series? I may pick up the second one and see if I want to continue, because obviously the movie was great, but I don't know if it follows the same character, so I'm going to have to research more into that. So if you have read the second book in the series, Castle in the Sky, I know there's a movie called Castle in the Sky, but I don't know if that is the movie or the book. I don't know. Okay, another middle grade that I read last month was Legends of the Lost Causes by Brian McClelland and Louis Sylvester. And this is the first in a series all about 18th century kind of Civil War time zombies. So we follow this little boy named Keach. He lives at an orphanage called for lost causes, and he has a little brother named Sam. So one day Keach and Sam are at the river playing, and this mysterious guy shows up on a horse asking about somebody, and right away these two little boys get a bad vibe. They get a bad vibe of this dude and decide to lie. And then they turn away and start walking home, and then this mysterious stranger blurts out their adoptive father's name, and they freeze and they say, "No, we don't know that person." And so they run on home and tell their dad, and their dad like goes white as a sheet and gets the rest of the orphans and the and Granny to like lock all the doors and get the shotgun. And then something happens, and I'm not going to say, but it's eventually a quest for Keach with these other kids that are looking for this mysterious stranger, because he has done killed their family, and they are trying to find this mysterious rock, or this mysterious stranger. His name's Bad Whiskey. So, good name. Not good for the drink. But it's a quick read about body snatching zombies. It's like Body Snatchers. The Bad Whiskey, he's able to control the other zombies, and he eventually takes over one of the family members of the boys, and it's set in the Midwest. So It's got Native Americans in it. I think Osage, and this is the second book I've read this year that has mentioned or been about the Osage Nation in Oklahoma, and even the father figure of the orphans, he said that it was even a bad thing that the government took land from the Osage and just put them on rock where they couldn't grow their own food. But yeah, so it mentions the Osage. It's got some I don't know if it was like very accurate, but it mentions that some of the Osage or shapeshifters like shapeshifted into a bear. I know that the Navajo have shape-shifting lore, but I don't know if the Osage also had that same type of lore, because Navajo skinwalkers, wolves, that's a touchy subject. I don't know. I need to research more, but I mentioned the Osage, and that's what I want in the sequel. I have the whole series of this, and I'm hoping that the Osage is more included in the sequel, which is The Fang of Bonefire Crossing. Giving this a 4 out of 5. Really enjoyed it. At first I thought I was going to hate it and that I was going to be bored, but no. This is like a Midwest Civil War time Percy Jackson quest. So if you like Percy Jackson and you don't mind a Western feel, pick this up. Next book I read, it was one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and this was my second read for the Buzzword-a-thon for November. The Word Was Lost, so I read 2 books for the Buzzword-a-thon in the time frame that it was supposed to be. Anyways, I read The Lost Village by Camilla Sten, and going into this, I don't read bottoms because it's like it's not noticeable. I did not know until like a good bit into the book that this was a translated work from Swedish, and it's translated by Alexandra Fleming, and I know that the author Camilla Sten has another book coming out next year, also translated by the same person, so that tells me that it's a good translation, that it's a decent translation. But this is set in in Sweden, a small town that has been abandoned, and none of the villagers from this village has been seen again. So this is like Blair Witch Project meets Midsommar. I've never watched Midsommar, but growing up, Blair Witch Project was one of my favorite movies. I actually thought it was real until I learned about the genre found film. So but yes, we follow a documentary filmmaker named Alice. Her grandmother was a citizen or a villager. She used to live in this village until she moved away to Stockholm, I think. And her parents and her little sister still stayed in the village. And then we learn that this guy, he was a preacher, or he pretended to be a preacher. He came into the village and took over, and he just went on and on about God, and he eventually brainwashed the entire town. And he was a rapist. It's not horror at all whatsoever, and it's like classified as a horror. I wasn't scared. There was a couple of parts that were like spooky, but it wasn't enough to like scare me. Like, what was it? That one story in Hazelwood? But it was predictable, and the ending is not at all what I expected. This doesn't fit. And then one day I'm just browsing Amazon, and I see this exact same cover on another book with the exact same font and color. Completely different author. So, this cover. I hate books that have similar covers, or that are the same covers but just different titles. Different books with the same covers. hate it with a passion. I did a special or secret TBR in November. Well, it wasn't secret. It was a special TBR. Spell of the Month in books. And I read New World Rising by Jennifer Wilson. This is a dystopian set. It doesn't tell me like what country it's set in. It's just like certain sections, like a sanctuary, and then the city and stuff. YA dystopian, and there are so many similarities to the Hunger Games and Divergent that the two meshed, and this book was born. And I ended up giving this a 3, but I am going to pick up the sequel because I am intrigued by the ending. The ending, though. So yes. This is about a girl named Phoenix, and when Phoenix was little, her parents snuck her out of the sanctuary with a bunch of other people that we know down the road. And she is hidden in the sewer, and she watches as her father is murdered in front of her, and her mother is raped and then murdered in front of her by this gang called the Ravagers. And then when the Ravagers run away after doing the murdering, another gang comes up called the what's it called? The Scavengers. And the Scavengers came and stole everything, the clothes off her parents' bodies, their stuff, and ended up saving Phoenix from this sewer. So fast forward a couple of years down the road, Phoenix is running through the city, running over rooftops, and she's got about 26 safe houses, and she is just trying to survive, and she's got a list of things that she does every day, and she lives by her own rules. And so one day at one of her safe houses, it's a library, and she is looking for books to read to pass the time, and then one day she just starts hearing voices, and she ends up hiding, and she sees that the Ravagers are in this library, and she escapes. And then that same night, she sees a little girl running away with Ravagers running right behind her. And Phoenix does something that she never does. She deviates from her plan and saves the little girl. And then she gets knocked unconscious. She wakes up in a sterile room in the sanctuary, and she is questioned and branded a criminal at the very beginning. And she has to prove herself and be asked the same questions over and over and over again. And then she gets paired with the little girl that she saved. There was a lot of similarities about factions and how she survived, and like the mannerisms and the dialogue between the Phoenix and what was his name? Maddox. No, not Maddox. He was the guard. Triven? I think, yeah. Triven. Phoenix and Triven. It was like a Katniss and Peeta, or sometimes a Thor and Triss. So, yeah. It was a good dystopian. I loved the world, but I just didn't like the characters because they were so similar. And yeah, I'm going to be picking up New World Ashes. I think that's the next one. I don't know if it'll tell me in here, but yes. New World Ashes or New World Inferno. One of those two is the second one, and I'm going to be buying the second one. I may buy a third one. Go ahead and get it over with. But yes, highly recommend if you like dystopian. It's not that great, but if you're just getting into dystopian, pick this up. Okay, the next one I read on a website because couldn't justify buying the compendium just to get volume 9. And I didn't want to buy volume 9 separately because then I don't have the other ones. And my library has never ordered volume 9. But it's Saga volume 9 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I needed to read it because I needed to know what happens. I've heard so many people say it just ripped their hearts out and that they cried. And how is it going to come back from this? And I didn't cry. I was more pissed off than anything. And then I questioned Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples' sanity. And then I understood why they took a hiatus so damn long. Because who comes back from that? How do you make a story from that? So I'm not going to spoil, but why did these two people have to die? I'm not going to say which two, but why? Why? These were two people who like made the story. So if you don't know what Saga is, it's about this man and woman from two different planets, warring planets, and they are not allowed to be together. Well, they get together sexually and have a baby. So now the people of their planets and in this whole entire universe is out to kill Alana, Marco, and Hazel, their hybrid child. And so while they are on the run, they make friends along the way. And they outrun their enemies along the way. And then eventually their enemies become friends or betrayers. And yeah, this story is told all from Hazel's perspective. And I ended up giving this book a 5 out of 5. I don't know why I did that because I'm like still processing. It hasn't hit me because I have a feeling that Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples are going to take a turn, and possibly they have the control to bring these two characters back, and I don't know if I want that. I don't know if it's expected. I don't know, but if they bring on back after causing this much stress and heartache for the past 2 years on their hiatus, they could have came back last year despite the pandemic. I mean, but maybe they even had trouble like coming up with a storyline. But the story is going to be continued next year, starting in January. It's already confirmed. And yeah. And I don't know if I'm going to keep this out of 5. Because I just don't know. So for the letter O in my TBR, my Spell the Month and Books TBR, I had Otherworlds by Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller. I didn't read that. I read a different book because it was about to expire on NetGalley. And that is The Orphan Witch by Paige Crutcher. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year, and I ended up giving it a 1 star. I hated this book. Yeah, it was such a drag, man. I told my husband that it was like a cat dragging its butt on the floor. That's how much it dragged. And I know that's like fucking rude as hell, but it's the truth. So, and I also know the author's favorite word. It is spine. She used the word spine more than 50 times in this book. If I had a physical copy, which I might get from my library, I am going to go through the book and just mark how many times the word spine is used. Pissed me off. Once and twice was good. 3 times on one page. Okay, getting a little out of control. Twice in a same paragraph. Okay, so this is about a girl named Persephone, and she can't look people in the eye. When she does, the people go crazy, and she thinks it's her fault, and so she doesn't allow herself to get close to people. And she is an orphan. She has no family. Her mother abandoned her on the steps of an orphanage when she was a baby, and the foster families that she's been with, she would get close, and then she would look in their eyes, and they would send her back and then try to kill themselves. And so one day, she's working her job at a coffee shop, and this guy she really, really likes, and this guy, he really, really likes her. He just is giving hints. He's flirting. And she decides, I'm just going to look into his eyes and see if anything changes, because I feel different today. She looks in his eyes, and then he walks out of the coffee shop, walks in front of a fucking car, gets hit, and then gets back up, and then walks back into the street in the oncoming traffic. And then one of her co-workers, she looks into his eyes, and then he goes and pours scalding hot coffee all over his face, and then tries to go to another coffee pot and do the same thing again. And then she just goes, release. She just says the word, and then the whole time, everybody in the coffee shop freezes, except for her coworker, which she doesn't know why. And her coworker goes, what is wrong with you? And then she just decides to get on a boat and go to this island that she was offered to go to by a former coworker who just invited her there to get away and have a change of scenery. And then it comes out that the girl who invited her there is her long-lost cousin. And she gets told that she's a witch. And so she has a giggle go up her spine. I mean, if you go onto my Goodreads and go on to the Orphan Witch and go to my reviews, then you will see. Or if you go onto my page and go to my how I felt about this book, you will see that I'm not a fan. But anyways, she starts learning how to use her power, and that she is a walker, and that she can go between worlds. And she ends up falling for this dead dude that's been dead for hundreds of years, and he's a pirate. And he is the guardian of this library, and the library changes on its own. The library is a living being, and throughout the story, Persephone is so damn dumb that she's constantly questioning everything. The info dump in every single dialogue was just cringe. And my least favorite chapter 3, it was 20% of the book, and then it was the most info dump ever. The author couldn't decide how to split up her chapters, and then she gets into a rhythm oh, this little bit needs to be in one chapter, this little bit needs to be in one chapter, but this big ass chunk I'm gonna leave as chapter 3 and just drive people crazy. But yeah, I ended up giving this 1 star. Absolutely hated it. So yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. I've been talking about it for 5.5 minutes. The next book I read was Casper and the Everdark Wings, book 1 of the Unmapped Chronicles by Abby Elphinstone. And this is about a boy who named Casper. He's in a boarding school in England, and he's constantly being bullied by these 2 kids named what was their name? It's the same as frickin' Candida and Leopold. I think that's her name. Candida. Or Cordelia. Maybe? No, not Cordelia. Candida. But he likes to hide in lost and found baskets and not go to class. And his mom and dad are professors at the school. And so one day Candida goes into his home to look for him. and he hides in a grandfather clock. And this grandfather clock transports him to another world, and he learns that this world is responsible for the weather on Earth. And so there's these mysterious bird-like creatures trying to wreak havoc and steal the marbles, which is what the weather needs for the snow and the sun and stuff like that. And he makes it his mission with this girl. What was her name? Utterly. And they go on this quest to stop the Everdark, the vulture creatures. I don't know. This book was very fucking boring, as you can tell. The only thing I liked was Arlo. He was a little dragon. The Drizzlehags and the Bristlebeard, the Snow Troll, were also my favorite. They gave the best advice. And Casper the Boy, he was very fucking whiny and annoying as hell. Am I going to pick up the sequel? I don't think so. And it bothers me that publishers put the series name bigger and then put the title of the book in little fucking font. It also annoys me that the UK title, Rumble Star, is better than these fucking titles. I'm very pissed off right now, as you can tell. So I'm going to lose my attitude. But I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5. I read this out loud to my kids. And yeah. I may pick up the second one just for Arlo. Who the hell knows? No. Second book follows 2 other kids on another different planet. I think it's the Jungle Seed planet. Or the Jungle Seed area. So I may pick up the second book. I'm hoping that they're not whiny as fuck as Casper was, because he was just pathetic. Okay, the next book I read was Macbeth. I read the No Fear Shakespeare edition, and I've never read a William Shakespeare work in my life. So I've read retellings and I've watched reimaginings or adaptations, and oh my god. Okay, feet. But yeah, I read Macbeth. The only thing I knew about Macbeth going in was that it was set in Scotland. So I did not know about the betrayal and that Lady Macbeth was the mastermind over the whole damn thing. And that Macbeth was really a coward at the beginning and he didn't want to do it, but he was like egged on by his wife, like, oh, you need this, you deserve this, and you're better than them. And Macbeth ends up becoming a fucking tyrant. And so I'm going to be watching some adaptations. I have like 2 that I want to watch. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed reading the old translation, or the old text, and then the modern text. The old text I could like understand some things, but then the modern text was just like confirming what I thought it was and giving me more information. So yeah, I am going to be reading all the other No Fear editions. I may pick up Romeo and Juliet next, because that is the Shakespeare play that I have seen the most adaptations and read the most retellings of. So yeah, that may be the next one. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time reading No Fear Shakespeare. I thought I was going to be confused and like it was going to take me fucking forever, but no. I flew through this. I started it on November 15th and I finished it on November 21st. And I really enjoyed it. Okay, the next one I read, it was another NetGalley book. And it is Lucifer's Game by Christina Loggia, or Loggia. I don't know how to say it. It's an Italian name. And this is a World War II Italian story. So we follow a woman named, what's her name? Cordelia. I knew it was something. Okay, so we're following a woman named Cordelia, and she is trying to escape fascist Italy with the help of the Vatican City. And she owns a hotel, and it eventually is taken over by German Nazis who want to spy on the Vatican because they believe the Vatican is helping the Allies destroy the German supplies and that are going to Africa and Egypt. And so she is Jewish, and so she's trying to get out of Italy. She's trying to get a safe passage also for her nanny cook, who basically raised her because her mother died and her father ended up dying. I don't remember, but yeah, so it's from 3 different perspectives. It's from the fascist, it's from one of the majors in the fascist, in the black shirts, Marco Severo, something like that. And then it's from a British spy who has infiltrated the black shirts. His code name is Lucifer. And then from Cordelia's perspective and her time meeting up with one of the fathers from the Vatican, and having to deal with the Nazis that have taken over her hotel as a base for their operation to spy on the Vatican. And so I was confused at the beginning because these characters are not very fleshed out. They're one and the same. They are the same. They have no depth. And so, and all the characters are introduced at the very beginning. It's like, here you go. And so I wanted more spy stuff. I wanted more action and less sex. So Cordelia, she's Jewish, and the guy she ends up falling for is none other than the Nazi officer who was a former German lawyer who cares about his country and thinks that Germany is the best damn thing on the planet, and that there's no consequence for him in this book. I'm just going to go ahead and spoil this whole damn book. The Nazis lose. They're losers. And so he ends up being his operation is done. So he goes back to Egypt, and the Nazis lose tremendously against the Allies. So he's eventually put in a prisoner of war camp. He's taken to England as a prisoner of war. And then he's eventually let go. And then he picks up his law firm again in England. And the whole time, he never finds out that Cordelia is Jewish. At all. Whatsoever. And then at the end, Cordelia goes back to him after knowing that he's German, that he supported Adolf Hitler, and that he was one of the many helpers of mass murder of an entire race. That just no. I ended up giving this book a 3 stars. I really enjoyed the spy aspects, but the rest of it was just crap. The ending, no. For the letter V in my spell the books of the month, I picked Vasa in the Night by Sarah Porter. This is a Russian folklore retelling of Vasilisa, and we follow a girl named Vasa. And this book is fucking confusing. I ended up giving this book a 2-star because it was just a bunch of shit thrown together. Vasa lives in this tiny apartment in Brooklyn with her half-sister and stepsister and her stepmother. Her mom was this famous painter who made Vasa sit portraits as if she was committing suicide. She had an 8-year-old Vasa put a gun in her mouth, put a noose around her neck, and like put a knife against her wrist. I mean, but anyways, so I keep hitting this damn tripod. So one night, Vasa and her half sister are not getting along. She gets along better with her stepsister, Vasa, to go to the store in the middle of the night. The only store that's open in the middle of the night is a place called Be Wise, and Be Wise stands for Baba Yaga. And so she goes into the store, and the thing about the store is that it is notoriously known as being having thieves every single time someone goes in, and they get beheaded, and their heads get stuck on a pike outside of the store. And so she has to walk by these severed heads every day. And then when she gets into the parking lot, she sees this all in black dude on a big black Harley just driving in circles around the parking lot. And so she's like, what is this? Is this a night guard? And she tries to talk to him. Is this the security guard? He doesn't speak. And so she goes into the store, and then she sees these little disembodied hands that are trying to stick things into her pockets. So that's how the people get their heads chopped off. And so the hands, they eventually try to get something into her pocket, and then she meets Baba Yaga, and Baba Yaga's like, are you trying to steal from me? And she's like, no, the hands are sticking stuff into my pockets. And Baba Yaga's like, so you're gonna have to work off your debt about the mess you've made and throwing things onto my floor, and so you got to work 3 nights for me. And then each night, yeah, something crazy happens. And so this was just one hot mess. We meet a pangolin and a duck, or a penguin man, who are lawyers, and we find out that the big black Harley dude is like a shell of something, and it's just nope. It took me so long to read this. It's confusing and disgusting. The dismemberment of the bodies were gross. Vasa, she's trying to put one body back together, and it was saying that she had to make sure all of the little veins and then the windpipe were like all put together so they could fuse back together normally, so you wouldn't be like that. I should have read the Russian folklore before picking up this book, so I could have understood it better. And the constant mentioning of the store on chicken legs. We know Baba Yaga and chicken legs, okay? You didn't have to keep mentioning it. But, yeah. I love the cover. I love the Brooklyn Bridge in the night. But, no. It was confusing. It was weird. I didn't like it. The last book I read for the month of November was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. I've been wanting to read this book for years because of all the hype and all the love that it gets. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5. It's a very quick read. And I loved Wallace until Eliza's identity was leaked. So, this is about a girl named Eliza. She is like a hermit nobody in her school. She is constantly thinking of how the people at her school are like pathetic for like wanting to do homecoming and sports, and she just loves the online world so much more. Eliza Merck, she's a nobody, but online she is Lady Constellation. She is the creator of Monster C. She is mother of a fandom. That's what she's branded herself. She has 2 best friends that are online people, and they live in separate parts of the world. So in this book, she has no real friends. And so I think, so one day this new kid shows up at school, and he's big buff football player size, and he doesn't talk. And so one day 2 school bullies are trying to get what Wallace is writing, and Wallace doesn't stick up for himself. So Eliza, she just jumps in and goes, hey, leave him alone. She stands up for Wallace, which she doesn't do. And then she ends up like having high anxiety the rest of the day. Like, why did I do that? People are going to look at me now. And the constant attitude against her parents. I'm dealing with tweens right now, and they're getting attitudes. And reading this, I couldn't escape it. Like, I was reading this, and her snapping at her parents all the time. They're just wanting to get to know her and know what she's doing. And she's like, no, can you leave me alone? Can you, like, let me live in peace? And I'm just on my phone, and I have my 13-year-old, my 12-year-old. Last week was a struggle. So, yeah. So, like I said, I loved Wallace up until Eliza's identity was leaked, and then he just wanted to, like, he only cared about himself. Because he could have, his future was depending on if she finished her story. That pissed me off. So, Wallace just saying, oh, well, my future doesn't exist if you don't finish the story, and then this offer is going to go away and I won't have anything. And he was like jealous of her success and how much money she was making off Monstrosity. And that's another thing. At the very beginning, I was like, how are you doing this? How does your parents not know how much money you're making? What about taxes? And then it pops up, yeah, my parents gave me the number of this tax guy and made me go talk to him. And I opened up a new account, and they don't know how much money I really have because I funnel a little bit out of this account that they pay attention to into this other one. I'm like, that is just too much. That is just too much. And so Wallace, like, guilt tripping Eliza and giving her an ultimatum and telling her that she needed to finish it so he could have his future look brighter. I'm like, no, dude, don't, like, write off her coattails. Like, he became a complete dick, and I hated him. So I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5. I don't know why people love Wallace, because he's a little fucking shithead. And so, so for my Spell the Books in November, I ended up reading Novem. I am counting Macbeth as my M, even though I didn't read it in order, because it's Macbeth and it starts with M. I'm not going to do that because it's my rules. So I didn't read Burr, so I got to Novem. It's alright. So did I have a good reading month? The quality was great. I ended up reading 12 books. 3, 6, 9, 12 books. But the quantity was great. The quality of the books? Did I say quality when I said 13? I read 13 books this month. The quality was just not there. I only gave one book 5-star, and I'm questioning that. That is Saga Volume 9. So, I don't know. I ended up... The only 2 books I really did like was Legends of Lost Causes and No Fear Shakespeare, Macbeth. So, coming off of a good month, my favorite reading month of October, and having no good books in November, it's kind of a... But I'm hoping that December will be better. And I will be doing my TBR tomorrow while my kids and my husband are at the father-daughter dance. But yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. And I will see you on my next one.